just clarify some things.
All right, good morning, Chevra. I want to sing. Huh? Happy? I want to sing, Chevra. I want to sing this nigun we sang earlier this week at one of the shiurim. This Rav Shlomo nigun. It is just so heavenly. It's gonna be a special learning this morning. 30th Yarzeit. Listen to this nigun. Some of you know this already, but this is like one of the ones that has to get out. This is another example of like a nigun that he only sang once when it came down, and he never sang it again. You know how many nigunim are like that? Like everyone today knows. He sang that one time when it was composed. Parshas Vayigash 1977 in Florida. But it was never, that's it, he sang it one time. It's like he'd walk into a room, he'd hear us singing that niggun, and he'd be like, wow, It's a gewalt nigun. Whose is that? You know? Do you know how many there are like this? When I tell you hundreds, I'm mamish not exaggerating. Hundreds. I'll give you another taste. Another one. I sang this for a while. Maybe some of the remember it. Sorry, it's one more quick one, okay? Huh? No, we have some gewalt Torah to learn. So but this is Torah too. This is Torah on some, right, Noam? Listen to this one. If we don't stop, you know what's going to happen. They don't stop. Okay. All right. Can someone hit some some air if you don't mind.
Who can turn it off? I turn it off.
It's on, right? Okay, so we have the month of Cheshvan. We continue to learn the Elin Nishmas Bas Yefega Bas Yisrael, the Elin Nishmas Frida Sina Bas Yitzchak, the Elin Nishmas Mer Yitzchak Ben Yosef Eliyahu Kohen, for the Refuah Shlema of Hillel Tzvi Yehuda American and all the Chayalim, in honor of all our Chayalim protecting our Am Yisrael. This week is sponsored L'Refuas by the Reinitzes L'Refuas Aram Chaim Ben Brocha Rivka, Sarah Rivka Bas Brian Dolea, and also anonymously Leili Nishmas HaChayal HaKadosh Ariel Ben Gavil B'Shoshana Sosnav. May Hashem Yikom Damo. May the light and the holiness he brought to the world continue to inspire each of us to do better. Amen. And today, Friday, is sponsored by Shira Inido Tauber, Leili Nishmas Adina Miriam Bas Yocheved Ve'aryeh. Okay. There's so much I want to share with you right now, and I had to condense it, but I'm gonna get straight to the point. It's if it was up to me, like if I could just do whatever in the world I wanted, and if I could choose, Hashem said, listen, you could do anything you want, okay? Anything you want, all day. It would be what I did this week for 3 hours. It also is something I used to do every single day for hours, every day, for many, many years. What would I do? I would simply take a tape of Rav Shlomo where he's teaching, and I would transcribe it during the day. I'd edit it in the afternoon, and I would teach it at night. To me, there was no greater sense of shlemus in my life. I've never had that before. I've never had it. Mamash, I've never had it. I mean, I've never had it like that, put it like that. Obviously, the Yarzeit drags you, always the 30th Yarzeit, it drags you back to like, to these kind of feelings. And when I say I did it this week, I pulled out from the archive a shiur from Pashas Vayera 1993 in Montreal at the home of Rav Shlomo and Judy brought. And it was a tape I never tackled. I never tackled it. And I sat there and I stopped every few minutes and I just started weeping, because there is no Torah in the world like his that touches me. Nothing. Nothing comes close. And we learn, everyone. His Torah, for me and for many of us, nothing comes close to that place that he rips inside of me. Touches me so deeply. And so today we're going to learn a certain piece from his. Now, what's very beautiful when we do these kind of things, because some Torah was said 31 years ago in Montreal, and it was never learned in 31 years. And now we're learning it again for the first time after 31 years, and hopefully this will eventually get published and share, whatever. But this is like very deep things, but you have to understand what it looked like. Right? He opened up the Beis Yaakov. This is the man Shilach, but he opened up the Beis Yaakov. Okay, I could send you the video. He opened up the Beis Yaakov, and he goes like this for about literally like a minute and a half. Right? And then he goes, and then he pours it out for 2.5 hours. So don't worry, it won't be 2.5 hours.
That's his man.
Right. This was Rav Shlomo's man Shilach. So I keep it, especially this Shabbos, very, very close to me. But Bichlal, we're gonna have a special Shabbos. This Shabbos will be very special. I didn't announce it, whatever, but everyone's invited to our home tonight at 8:30 for a tish. There's a lot of guests coming from out of town that are here for Shabbos also, that want to be with us from the special Shabbos. So 8:30 in our house tonight. We're doing a tish, and throughout Shabbos, that energy, that light will be very, Be'ezrat Hashem, very apparent. The one thing I always ask with these teachings is the same thing, because it's just the way we're structured. I tell this to Israelis when I learn it in Hebrew, and I tell it to Americans when we learn it in English. You can read ahead, and it won't mean anything to you, because this is not Chomer that you just read. You have to learn this inside, shlav by shlav. Now, one important thing, one hakdama I want to say, is that just to understand where he's taking us to, the pnimius of this parsha, what he was able to do with this piece is explain one line in the Mea Shiloach. I personally never understood, seeing it for close to 30 years, I never understood one line in the Mea Shiloach that the Beis Yaakov, his son, then takes and builds up deeper. But there's a theme throughout all of Rav Shlomo's Torahs. Almost every transcript, he speaks about Adam and Chava. He speaks about the snake. He speaks about Gan Eden. Kimat every single teaching. It's almost like in a subconscious or consciousness, actually, there was always this very clear concept that we're here to fix that. Like no one's putter from fixing how this whole balagan began of this world. Now in the Zohar HaKadosh, Eitz Hadas is not called Eitz Hadas. Eitz HaChaim is called Eitz HaChaim. But in the Zohar, it's not called Eitz Hadas. Does anyone know what it's called? Huh? That's not exactly. Not this concept. It was there somewhere, but it's called Ilana Desfeka. Now that's very important. And the Zohar HaKadosh calls the tree of knowledge Ilana Desfeka, the tree of doubt. Now the tree of doubt this is very deep. It can either mean I'm not sure if I should do something or not. I'm always besuffic. But it could also mean is I'm not sure how important what I'm doing really is. I don't know what's worse. You understand the difference between the two? Ilana, huh?
It's the opposite of Eitz Hadat.
Ilana Desfeka is the opposite of Eitz Hadas.
It's like
No, I hear what you're saying. Not in this context at all whatsoever. It is exactly this inyan of thinking that by knowing a lot of things, you know what to do. You know how to do it. Afuch, fakert. Eitz Hadas, Ilana Desfeka, you could know all the Torah in the world, but you're not sure if it's poyel, if it does anything in the world. You're not sure. You're besuffic whether it really makes a difference. You know how often, I'm sure you had this as well with interaction with teenagers, or I would have this a lot on college campuses, like real Erlich Yidden that are trying to understand. No one ever gave them the pnimius of halacha, so they come and say, listen, do you think it really matters to God if I turn on a light or not on Shabbos? Or if I text on Shabbos? Do you think it really matters? Does it really make a difference or not? I'm the only one that's ever gotten that question? Come on. We ask ourselves. It's like we're thinking about other people. We ask L'chaim for being... So having said that, we're going to learn one line of the Mea Shilach and then buckle up. Okay, just buckle up. What a schus to do this together. Now this isn't edited yet. It's not really edited yet. It's a very first round editing. You'll see what I'm talking about, but we'll do the best that we can. Now, if you want to see this inside the Mea Shilach, it's the first piece in Chelek Beis in the Mea Shilach. I think it's the first piece in Chelek Bet. So the Ishbitzer HaKadosh says like this, the Mea Shilach says like this. This is fascinating. Mikol hachnasas orchim shekiem Avram Avinu lo nichtav b'Torah mefurash rak haparsha shel hamalachim shehem einam tzrichim la'achila v'hu nechshav lo lemitzvah v'yesh b'ze kama divrei Torah amukim. So what the Mea Shilach said? Do you think this was the only time Avram Avinu was Mekayim Achnasas Orchim? Can't be. How do we know that almost for a fact? Not from the Pshat, but like, how do we know this is not the only time Avram Avinu was Mekayim Achnasas Orchim? Huh? Like the whole Vayitav Eshel, like the whole thing with Vanefesh Asher Asu Becharan, everything we grew up learning was like Avram Avinu and Sarah would invite people into their tent. Huh? Abraham's tent. What would happen in there? No Achnasas Orchim. We only have one moment of Achnasas Orchim, Parshas Vayera. So the Ishbitzer says, isn't it weird that the only time that the Torah mentions Avram Avinu's Achnasas Orchim, which he probably championed in, is the one time where he does a whole geschäft of food, and these people, these entities, don't even need to eat. And yet, that's what the Torah chooses to tell us, and that's considered a mitzvah for him. V'yesh b'zeh kama divrei Torah amukim. And there are a lot of deep divrei Torah on this, and then he ends. And then he ends. You know, there's a song that Avram Fried has about the Rebbe and Rashi. Do you know this song? Does anyone know this song? Do you know this one? Where basically he said that Rashi waited for hundreds of years for someone to really explain to the world what he meant until the Rebbe came to the world, right? So one of the things that I remember speaking to one of the top Talmidim of Rav Shlomo, it's not in the world anymore, said to me, the greatest pain they had when he died is that what about all the Ishbitzer Torahs that no one's going to be able to, that the Ishbitzer waited 200 years for someone to come and explain to him, and he was the only one that really got it. And that's not only my opinion. You all know the Ishbitzer's great-grandson comes here quite often, and we have very interesting, similar conversations. So this, to me, is a great example of Hashem, you saved my life this week. Why? I've been learning this piece, mamish, for kimat 30 years. And every year I see it, I never understood what this means. So let's try to understand this Me'ashilach. Because all he says is, he states a fact and he says, there are a lot of deep Torahs on this. And then, weiter. And then he continues. Okay. You understand the Torah? Meaning, or the question? I don't know even what to say. You understand the Inyan. You understand the Me'ashilach. Okay, so Reb Shlomo says like this. The way we translate Vayera Elav Hashem is that Hashem revealed himself to Avram. And everyone's asking, whenever Hashem reveals himself to Avram, it says that he revealed himself to Avraham. And then he has something to say to Avram Avinu. Here, the Lashon is Vayera Elav Hashem. It doesn't say Vayera El Avraham, which all the Mefarshim are asking, why doesn't it say to who he revealed himself? And also, and he didn't end up saying anything. There was a godly revelation in the beginning of this parsha. Vayera Elav Hashem Eloheinu Amrei, v'hu yoshev Pesach Oel kechom hayom. So you would think the next pasuk would say, Vayidaber Elav Hashem, whatever. It doesn't. It's not. It's not there. Like bichlal, you have to. I just want to stay very close to how he's bringing it down. Okay. Vayera Elav Hashem doesn't say that he's revealing himself to Avram Avinu. It just says to him, and there's nothing that he says. That's what the pasuk says. So the real translation is not that God revealed himself to Avram, but that Hashem revealed to Avram who he is. What does this mean? Okay, so what? Yeah, Hashem. This is the classic Hasidic taich on this. At this moment in Parshas Vayera, Hashem gave a taste to Avram Avinu who Avram Avinu is.
I think I heard Rav Shlomo say it was on Seder night too.
We're gonna get there. Everyone, this is it's a packed. It's gonna bring up a lot of things. I want to go b'chavana the way he did it. But you're right. Now the Rishner would say like this. I'm not so crazy about. I don't know if he said that lashon, but the Rishner said that I'm not so crazy about Gilui Eliyahu, meaning a revelation of the end of time. But the Rishner says, I want the Ribono Shel Olam to reveal my own neshama to me. I'm waiting for Gilui neshama. What do I need a Gilui neshama for? Okay, so you may think this is like something very cute and sweet, but let's just bring it down as much as we can to our level. Did any of you ever cry at night over asking the question, Ribono Shel Olam, be'emes la'amito, what am I about? Who be'emet, who am I? What makes me, me? This is not the shaila of, should I be keeping Torah and mitzvahs? That is not the question. Not, who am I really? Am I really a Hindu? Am I really a Buddhist? Am I really, what do they call themselves? The human,
Ethical monotheist, ethical culture?
like the human, no, it's like the universalists. Like, not those shailas. But be'emes la'amito, a gilui neshama. Like, what makes me me? What makes me me? Now, it's fascinating to think that based on what we learned, until now, Avram Avinu didn't know who he really was, even though he did the most amazing things in the world. I'll pee this. The Gilui of Vayera Elav Hashem, this is what's so fascinating.
You're saying he didn't know who he was because this didn't come up until now.
This didn't happen until now. The Ishbitzer says the chiddush of this moment was that up until now, even though he did all the right things, he still did them without really knowing his Gilui Neshama. He didn't have a taste of who he really was up until this moment. That's how we're learning it until now.
His humility.
I'm pushing back on everyone's comments today because I want him to lead it. It's not gonna work any other way. So I just need us to flow through. Let him just do it, okay? In the Zohar HaKadosh, the tree of knowledge is not called the tree of knowledge. It's called Ilana Desfeika, like we learned before. I can keep Shabbos all my life, learn Torah day and night, and somewhere in the corner of my heart, I'm still a bit uncertain. Okay? So this is what we were speaking about before. Now he goes off, and he does this all the time. When from a Yidden sees someone who doesn't keep Shabbos, they get wild and angry. A person who is 100% with Shabbos and sees that Nebuch, this Yid, isn't into Shabbos yet, they feel they have got to help them. If I'm healthy and I see someone limping and I start yelling at them, it's crazy. But a healthy person says, oh, I wish I could help them. Now listen to these lines. But for those who have Ilana Desfeika, they're not so sure themselves. For them, anyone who doesn't do what they're doing, they throw all their sfeikas on them. Okay, you know how deep what he just said is? I'm going to try to say it outside, but I want to make this a parallel to many different things. The easy example we have is, of course, when real Haredish Yidden, I don't know if they still do it, but like would throw rocks on someone on Shabbos. But wait a second, there's a problem with no, they were maktzah the rocks before Shabbos. The whole thing, like they set it up, they prepared the rocks before Shabbos. The Chovet Shabbos Kodesh, after the mikveh, they picked their finest pebbles and rocks and stones. Said Lechovet Shabbos Kodesh. They placed it right by the highway, and this would happen every Shabbos in Summit Bar Ilan many years ago. For those that remember this, Adain, insanity. What does Rav Shlomo say about those Yidden? As much as it looks like they have it all down, they are actually tuned into Ilana Desfeika, to the tree of doubt. That's one level, like we said before. Now, how could you say what? They're not certain about Shabbos? They're not sure? But Rav Shlomo is saying inside, deep down inside, when the word of Hashem is so clear to you, without any sfeikas, and you see someone that's not holding where you're holding, how would you respond? It could never come out in that way. And I want to say this in here in a different way to all the Tzioni Chevra here in the room. It's the same exact thing with Eretz Yisrael. We would never, ever compare ourselves to those that throw stones on Shabbos. But if the way you speak to American Yidden about coming to Eretz Yisrael is from Ilana Desfeika, ain't nobody moving here, and you're not really here either. I know that's a heavy statement, but that's what I want our headquarters here to be part of changing, completely changing the narrative and the approach, dafka in that Indian of Eretz Yisrael, since we're so on fire for Eretz Yisrael. But if there's still a little bit of Ilana Desfeika when it comes to our connection to Eretz Yisrael. Is any of this clear? Or is this like totally, this is very important stuff. Bemet, I feel, you understand why I kept on stopping? I only gave over to you about 1/8 of the transcript. I kept on stopping. I can't believe what he's saying over here. This is so beyond this world. So when a person is operating on any level from Ilana Desfeika, it means they're not so sure about their own Yiddishkeit, because if they were, it wouldn't come out like that. But B, the second level, which he's going to explain, is that they're not so sure, be'emes la'amito, that it's making a change in the world. You know why? Because if their Shabbos was for real, maybe there would be less Yidden driving on Shabbos. And if our Eretz Yisrael was mamish for real, shebereal, maybe we wouldn't have to deal with so many conversations about talking about the need to come home and move to Eretz Yisrael. Now, bottom paragraph. What happened when Avram Avinu entered the covenant with God? When was that? When did he enter the covenant? Right, that was last Shabbos, right? What happened after Avram Avinu entered the covenant with God? The Ishbitzer says that until he entered the covenant, he did everything that God told him to do, but it was hard. He had to force himself. Avram Avinu. Anything which is just put it on silent if you don't mind. Anything which is unclear to me, I have to force myself to do. That's very deep. Anything which is unclear to me, I have to force myself to do. Imagine I pass by a river and someone's drowning. I don't have to force myself to jump in and get them out, because it's not a suffix for me. I know this is what needs to be done. But if someone calls me and asks me, can you do me a favor? Can you please walk barefoot from here to San Francisco? If I do it, I'd have to force myself to do it. Why? Because what's the point? Why should I do this, right? So Ilana Desfeka means you're still doing the right things, but the way you're doing it is, I have to force myself. And now he's saying that until Pashas Vayera, that means until Avram Avinu is 99 years old, he did all the right things that Hashem told him to do, but he had to force himself to do it. Why? Because he didn't have a taste of who he really is yet. He's still operating from Ilana Desfeka. So the Ishbitzer says that until now, Avram Avinu did everything God told him to do, but God was not shining into him yet what it is to be an Erlich Yid, what it means to be an Oved Hashem. Like, think about this for a second. Can you imagine if we had a Vayera Elav Hashem moment? Do you imagine what it is? That think about something you still have to, you know it's the right thing, but you have to force yourself to do all the time. Can you imagine if you actually didn't have to force yourself to do it anymore? What a Gan Eden that would be, what a shiur, what an exodus that would be. Each person in their own life has their own inyanim. Things that I still do, but can you imagine not doing it anymore out of force? But Mamish fully Ilana Dechaya, like Eitz HaChaim, not Eitz HaDas, not Ilana Desfeka. So when it says Vayera Elav Hashem, God was shining into him that what the mitzvahs he was doing were 100% right, and that it's changing the whole world. That was the Gidui. That's Vayera Elav Hashem. And here the Ishbitzer says the deepest Torah. There is one typo here. I'll tell you in a second. Maybe you'll catch it. Until this parasha, the Torah doesn't even tell us about all the guests Avram Avinu was inviting to the house. That's the piece we learned before from the Mea Shiloach. He was inviting guests from the age of 48, nearly, should be 50. It's my mistake. Nearly 50 years he's doing this. So why doesn't the Torah say so? Because there was still some level of force. Meaning, he knew it was the right thing to do, and he did it, but there was a little bit of force behind the way that he did it.
Imagine the smile. It's like Avram wants to close up shop for the day, and then the last guy just straggles in, and he's like, okay, right. Come on in, bro.
Nachon? I thought you were going to say, imagine the smile that Man Shilach had in Shemayim when he saw that someone finally understood what he said.
Or gave over some of the deep Torahs he referred to.
So because there was still some level of force, but after he entered the bris with Hashem, it was so clear to him that when you are machnis orchim, not only are you doing the right thing, but you're bringing such a light into the world. If we would mamish have a taste that each time I do a mitzvah, I'm filling the whole world with light, I'd have no problem doing it. Not only would I not have a hard time doing it, I'd mamish be sitting by the opening of my tent looking to do it, which is exactly the result of Vayera Elav Hashem. Because, right? Vayera Elav Hashem, this is a gewalt. This is so fire. I hope it's coming across. The result of Vayera Elav Hashem B'alanei Mamrei is the continuation of the pasuk. Vehu Yoshev Pesach HaOhel Kechoim Hayom. Because what is he doing? Sitting at the entrance of the tent.
Looking for people to walk.
He's looking to Mekayim this mitzvah with zero force, but mamish from the deepest place inside of him, as we know. This is the third day. This is when he's in pain after the bris. So the result, thank you so much. The result is I'm looking for someone. Is that Chiddush clear? Vayera, this is the deepest Torah in the world. Vayera Elav Hashem, I'm giving you a taste of who you are. You matter. Gevalta, you matter. You don't have to force yourself anymore. It should be clear to you, Avram Avinu. And Eved Hashem has no sfekas. They're certain that when they come to Shachris, 8:10, Shirat David, they're davening with the minyan, they're doing mitzvahs, they're putting on talis, tefillin, they're saying, they're davening, may it be clear to you, zero force. That is changing the world. Every minyan in the whole world, ever you daven, it doesn't matter. That it actually is doing something. So Avram Avinu gets a taste of Vayera Elav Hashem. Wow, this is what it means to be in a bris with God, to have a covenant with God. What's the result? V'hu Yoshev Pesach Oel K'chaymayam. And here's a Torah from Rav Kook. Every year there's two functions. One function is to be in the world, and then there's a function where it's just between me and the Ribbon Shleim. Here's another bombshell revelation about Avram Avinu until now. But you really have to open your heart. You have to chuck your moichin for this one. That means shut down Mr. Mind for a second. Listen to what he says. Until Avram Avinu entered the bris, Avram Avinu's life was all about being between him and the world. He made sure the world believed in God. But the whole thing was not so much between him and God. Okay, let me explain what this means. Avram Avinu was busy turning the whole world on to the fact that there's one God. But what wasn't his Ikar Avodah up until that moment? No? Like, one-on-one, there is no God. There is, Chalila, one-on-one, there is no world. Rav Kook says you have to have both. You have to, mamish, be in the world. You have to be with people. You have to connect to people, to relate to people. And you have to have a place where no one else exists, and it's just you and the Ribbon Shleim. Rav Shlomo said, it's one of the saddest experiences a person can go through in this life is when you never have secrets with Hashem. That you don't have, like, you don't discuss the secrets that you have with God. And Rav Kook says you mamish need to have both. You have to have both. And the craziness is, Avram Avinu, till the age of 99, was telling the whole world about God and doing the right thing, but what didn't he necessarily have? Beino levin kono, where it's just me. You could say, crazy, what do you mean? Hashem talked to him. Yes, Hashem can talk to you and tell you what to do, and you can do it and still not have this intimate, personal thing where it's just about you and Hashem. Like, I find this quite often. It's a big nisayon for me with teaching. I'll tell you why. I always daven to find that one sefer, that one Torah, that touches me so profoundly that I don't run to go and teach. Because I want to keep it as a secret. But then, I don't know if it's the Yetzer Ra or Yetzer Tov says, but listen, it's not about you. You have to, like the Rebbe said, Aleph, teach Aleph. It's this internal, craziness, right? Like, for instance, did you ever, for the musicians here, did you ever write a song, you ever write a nigun that you never shared with anybody? That was just your love song to the Ribbon Shleim that no one will ever know about? Like, Noam, can you imagine writing one of your chidushim? No, Bemet. And it touches you. Huh? Right, but can you imagine, like, not like telling anybody ever, and it's just between you and Hashem? It's the same. It's the same. He's saying over here, Avram Avinu was Makar of the whole world. He was Makar. He brought Hashem to the whole world, and yet it still wasn't on the level of the second function that Rav Kook is speaking about. That it mamash has to be Beino Levin Kono. By the way, a wacky Torah. Just to jump because you said the name of Rabbi Nachman. What's the origins of Rus in the Torah? And Rus is the grandmother of Mashiach, right? So what? Huh? No, Ruth, Dafka Ruth. What's her origin? Balak. Ruth is Balak. It's Moab. There's a nitzotz in Balak that brought Mashiach into the world, right? Mashiach is going to teach each person that this second function is crucial. That you have to have something with Hashem that no one knows about, because he says that Balak is the Rashi Tevos Beino Levein Kono. Rabbi Nachman says Beino Levein Kono means it's just you and the Ribbon Shleim, and no one knows about it, and that's Mashiach. It's a Geval Torah also, right? I learned it from Rav Shlomo. Okay. He made sure, in the fourth to bottom paragraph, he made sure the world believed in God, but it was not so much between him and God. But now, Vayera Elav Hashem, it goes to the second function, where it's mamish between him and God. Now we understand the question we had in the beginning of shiur. Why doesn't it say Vayera Hashem El Avram? It doesn't even have to say to Avram, because no one else existed. Put it like this. This is a classic Rav Shlomo Torah. Okay, I'm looking straight ahead. Moshe's in front of me. Imagine it would just be me and Moshe in the room right now. Okay? So when I'm talking to you, do I have to say, hey, Moshe, how you doing? Tell me, Moshe, what's on your mind? No, because no one else exists.
It's the same with Vayikra. Vayikra Moshe. It's the same for our Torah.
But there he says his name.
Hashem is talking directly to Moshe. It's not Vayikra Hashem or Moshe anymore.
It's nachon. Here it's basically teaching us that having Vayera Elav Hashem is a moment when you feel, not in a bad way, no one exists, but in the best way, like in the most intimate way. Like, listen, if you mamish are with someone for real, and you connect to them, and there's a whole room of people, right? You could have that experience as well. Mamash, you could have that experience as well. But to be able to convey that over, Vayera Elav Hashem, there was no need. Rav Shlomo says usually we have names, like it says in the beginning of Evan Shlomo and Vayera. We usually have names to distinguish between people. It's like my representation in this world. Oh, you have a name because that's you and that's you and that's you. But if there's no one else, what do I need a name for? So at that moment of Vayera Elav Hashem, Avram Avinu tasted that when I go into a bris with Hashem, in Hashem's eyes, no one else exists in that moment. And I want to give you a raya by all of you that each of you had that this morning. You know how? Because if you didn't believe in this, you wouldn't daven Shemona Esrei. If you actually thought about this for a second. If you didn't really hold by what we just learned, then you really wouldn't daven Shemona Esrei. Up until Shemona Esrei, it's the tzivur, it's loud, we're together, we're teaming up, Hashem listens to the kahal, it's great. Then what happens? Hashem sfasai tiftach, Hashem open up my mouth, right? Because deep down inside of me, I believe that when I'm davening Shemona Esrei, no one else exists besides me and the Rebbeinu Shalom. Now, it doesn't mean, this is the chap. And I want you to really think about this really deeply. If my presence before Hashem, that it's just me and Hashem in the world, results in that you don't exist, and that Hashem isn't listening to you, that means you're not really standing before Hashem either. That's very important. The deepest inyan is that while I am experiencing Vayera Elav Hashem, I don't have to think about it, but I trust that you're also experiencing it. That's what makes God God and not a human being. And this is what Avram Avinu is experiencing. Vayera Elav Hashem, it's not that the world doesn't exist anymore. It's just that it's irrelevant to the moment right now. That's what was happening in the Pesach HaOel K'chayim HaYom.
Rashi, you want to stand up, maybe you want to daven Shemona Esrei.
I'm sorry?
Rashi said, you said it was like Shemona Esrei.
I know, I don't, again, let's stay, trust me. This could be stretched to every Rashi, Ramban, Ibn Ezra, or Chaim, because they all speak about elements of this. The way he does it is basically like he said, the way Rav Kook wrote Oros HaTshuva. Rav Kook learned everything about Tshuva from Rabbeinu Yonah, Reb Sadia Gaon, Nigeres HaTshuva, Sharei Tshuva, everyone, and then he took it and he squeezed it, and the juice that came out was Oros HaTshuva. That's how he said Oros HaTshuva came out into the world. Even though he's quoting the Ishbitzer, he's quoting, every Rishon and Achron are in these words. Okay? Now, Chaver, pay close attention, because now he says like this, he continues the Mahalach. And you've heard me say this sentence before many times, but it hits home very much right now. The way we are with God is the way we are with people. You can be machnis orchim, you could have 2,000 guests, but nothing is happening between you and the guests. I can serve God, keep Shabbos my whole life, but between me and Shabbos, there's nothing. What's the whole inyan of a yid? There has to be something between me and the people I engage with. This is, again, topic for an hour and a half shiur about what that sentence means, that the way you are with people is the way you are with God. Rav Shlomo didn't believe that you could have no intimate personal relationships with people and have deep connections. Like, that's not important, but me and the Ribbon Shlomo, we have it. We have it. He said, that's not, he doesn't buy that. The way, and he said this sentence many times, the way you are with people shows what you think of God. Because if you have something personal, intimate with the Ribbon Shlomo, also when you're with people, it's meaningful, and it's real, and it's important. And you have the ability also to make them feel, like Rav Shlomo did his whole life, that when they're with you, they're the only people in the world that matter. The way you, and he'll say this a little bit later on, but I'm jumping to it now, the way you are with your children is the same exact zach. If you can't give over to your children that when you're with them, no one else in the world exists, which is a big nisayon in our door, because of the pocket computers, obviously. If you can't give that over to your children, don't think that you have beino leven kono, that you have this personal, intimate thing with the Ribbon Shlomo. It won't work. You're kidding yourself. So Rav Shlomo says, this is why, second to bottom paragraph, this is why Sdom had to be destroyed. Why? Because the whole inyan of Sdom is that if you see a poor man, he says here, you can manage not to give him anything, even if he's dying from hunger. If I would edit it, I would say, it's not that you can manage, it was usser. You know, the laws in Sdom was that it was usser to acknowledge people that needed something. It was actually usser to have a meaningful personal relationship with someone that actually was in dire need for something. And Sdom needed to be destroyed because what's happening now in the world is a different world of Vayera Elav Hashem, that everyone matters. This means that nothing, take out the word the. I told you guys this is the first time these words have been learned. This means that nothing exists between you and that person. I can give thousands of dollars tzedakah, and there can be nothing between me and the person I'm giving to. And sometimes I can give 1 penny, and between me and that person there is something so strong. And I want you to know something awesome, as if up until now it wasn't awesome, right? But listen to what he says now. I told him in the beginning of shiur, everything's connected to Eitz Hadas. Everything. Or actually, I guess we should call it Ilana de Sfeika. Okay? How was the snake able to get to Chava? She was married to Adam, but there was nothing yet between the two of them. They didn't have that place of like just the two of them, secrets where nothing else in the world exists. You could be married like this also. So, and the snake knows this, Rav Shlomo says. So when Adam says to her, don't eat the forbidden fruit, it doesn't reach that deep because their whole life is Ilana de Sfeika. They're not sitting in there, the marriage, looking at each other and saying, our being together in this world is changing the whole world. Our marriage, our relationship is actually changing the whole world. You can be involved in the greatest chesed project. No pun intended, Jay. I'm just saying, you can be, no, it's because I thought about it. You can be, this is the hefech of you. This is the opposite of you, without embarrassing you too much. You can be involved in the greatest chesed projects. You can run gmachs, knowing that it's the right thing to do, and have zero of the second function that Rav Kook was speaking about. And Mechila, Danny, and all the other chevra, you could be a shliach of the Rebbe, and you know you're doing the right thing. But to you, it's just an inyan of, did I have a checkbox of how many tefillin I wrapped on people today? You understand? Ilana de Sfeika means I'm doing all the right things. But I'm not really certain in my heart of hearts that what I'm doing is actually really, really two things. A is my neshama, is my gilui neshama, and B, that it's mamish changing the world. I can be doing the right thing. We're not even speaking about this Ilana de Sfeika of should I keep Shabbos, should I not keep Shabbos. That's kindergarten Ilana de Sfeika. Kindergarten Ilana de Sfeika is should I be married to her, should I not be married to her. That's not. Be married for 30 years. And have the shaila, or never even engage in the shaila. Yeah, we brought kids in the world because everyone does that, and we have a family. Is our relationship and the fact that we built a home, is it clear to me, crystal clear to me, that this is illuminating in all worlds? Eitz Hadas tells you, what does it matter? Just do the right thing. You be a yid. Be a good yid. Eitz HaChaim is telling me this is everything. Like Avram Avinu basically enters Eitz HaChaim this Shabbos. Because he was doing all these mitzvahs. He was married to Sarah for all these years. And yet something goes deeper. And I want to say, if he was here, I'd ask him one shaila. I would say that Avram Avinu began this a little bit with Sarah Imenu last Shabbos based on one pasuk.
Can you see how beautiful she is?
Hine nayadati ki isha yefas ma'areat. Based on all the Hasidic Torahs, there was like some kind of gilui that happened to him there when they were about to go down to Mitzrayim. That's the only shaila I would personally have. Maybe he began this with Sarah Imenu, and then that gilui of Vayera of Hashem comes down later. I don't know. But I know that he says over here, the tikkun for this is in our parsha. The tikkun of Adam and Chava.
It's before they ate from the tree that they're living in the world of snake.
Because the snake knows how to get you to have that venom injected into you. They didn't even eat from the tree yet, but they were connected to that tree. Because the Nachash knows, he sees there's nothing between the two of you. Listen, I've seen some sick documentaries about cult leaders and the way they operate when it comes to messing with couples. Like, I'm sure you've seen these things. That's Mamish snake where he could see, that cult leader, the Nachash, could know which marriages are Ilana the Sveika and which is Ilana the Chaim, right? And they operate Mamish in sneaky ways. Not just cult leaders, I've seen other people. It's very scary and dangerous stuff. Our inyan in this world is to go home to our wives and forget about everything in the world, or go home to our children, or whatever we have in our life, and look right at it and be certain it's a Vayera Elav Hashem relationship and not the first level of this is what everyone does. But the tikkun is in our parsha. How do we know this? Because when the Malachim ask Avram Avinu, Aye Sarah Ishtecha, what does he say? Hine ba'ohel. What does that mean? He's
Hands off.
not only hands off, he's saying she's
She's my own.
you'll never know. Our thing is the oil, like it's separate from the whole world. Hine ba'ohel. It's, Hine ba'ohel. He says it, when I feel connected to a person, I want to be alone with them. Avram Avinu says to the angels, this is a relationship between me and her. No one else exists between us. I learned this one time I got a patch. About 10 years ago, we were still living beneath Itamar and Sarah down in Pitom Laktoret. And I think it's about 10 years ago, Mashu Kazeh. And there were a few couples that had moved. I mean, it's still like this. We still have, we're always trying to figure out how to get everyone to our table. But there were a few couples that at the time had just moved, or I don't know what And we invited 2 different families to come for a meal. Now, I'm not paskening anything to anybody. I'm just sharing how this Torah showed up for me. One of the couples, we said, we're having them and we'd like to have you also. And they said, I'm sorry, we can't. We can't come. One of the couples said, we can't come, one of the families. The following week, the couple that said we can't come, he took me aside and said, I just want to tell you something. I have an Indian that when I'm with people for the first time, like I really want it to just be us. So that it could really be about getting to know each other and not just a cultural thing of, now, there's not, that's Tam his Tam. I'm not saying he's right and don't you ever invite 2 different families to your table. That's not what I'm saying. Because then I'd have to say, really, no one show up here, take rotation of who's coming to shiur every week. It's the same thing, right? But imagine saying that in shul. Like, there'll be a select 10 every week and to get it really personal. But there was a beautiful time. I actually really appreciated what he said. Never ended up inviting him alone. For some reason. No. I'm saying, it's funny because actually it never happened that he came alone, that family came alone. But there's something there. Hine ba'ohel means Avram Avinu is telling the Malachim, listen, I'm not sure who you are, but I know for sure what I have and what my home is. Who's my wife? You have any questions where my wife is? Vayomer hine ba'ohel, the Chassidah, the Rapshitz, I forget who says this, ohel's gematria lamed vav. Everything about my wife is hidden. Everything about our relationship is hidden to the outside world. You may know she exists. What we have between each other is all functions of the second level that Rav Kook spoke about. Secrets, intimacy. No one comes close to it. And here I want to say the deepest depths. My relationship between me and God is dependent on what lies between me and my children. It's possible to know the whole world, which is not so hard, especially today. Like, you and I are in touch with more people in one day than our grandparents were in probably a span of 10 years. So it says it's possible to know the whole world, which is not so hard, but you have no relationship with your wife, so that should be own, okay? Whatever, it's just, I'm giving here to myself. But because you have no relationship with your own wife and children. I have seen this thousands of times, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. And he gives a good example soon of how do you know where your children are by you, and then thinking about that in comparison, like in relationship to Hashem. Last parsha is Avram Avinu in the world. Lech Lecha is Avram Avinu, the whole world. The Gai or the Gerim. This Shabbos is something else. It's about how Avram Avinu is relating to one person. And if you have this holiness of one person, then any poor man that walks in, Gewalt is your heart open. Meaning like this. If you have this inyan of the second function, it means that's how you relate to everyone that you're meeting. Doesn't mean that you're done with the world, but it means that the way you are with the world is like the way you are with the Ribono Shel Olam. That's what it means. Now he says a nutty thing. Now whenever he started talking about the Germans, you see even the coloring in his face shifted. And you should know, what's October 93? What happened in September 93?
Oslo.
You know, he stopped saying, Mechila for saying this, but you know, he stopped saying Rabin's name in a shul around here, around this time. This peace-loving, hugging Arab prisoners Rav, when it came to messing with Eretz Yisrael, that was it. That was a red line. There was no Shaila. There was no Ilana Desfeka. You remember. There was no Ilana Desfeka there. Sometimes there's videos of him performing at like Reform shuls, you know, and going nuts about Eretz Yisrael. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was cringing. I was like, oh my God, what are they going to do, you know? Well, he ukavash otam. He got them there. He attached them to their Pintel Yid for real. Like when it came to this tkufa in life, he goes off. So you don't have it here, but he goes on afterwards about the UN resolutions regarding money that was distributed to Palestina's Chevra. He lost his mind over it. He tied it to the parsha in a crazy way. But one thing he said over here is, listen to this. What's the craziest thing the Germans did? They gave us numbers. Why don't we give human being numbers? Human being is something else. The Germans gave us numbers. Stones have numbers. Streets have numbers. Highways have numbers. Planes have numbers. Human beings? Now what does he say? This is hard. Do you ever notice by outside Yidlach? Now, outside Yidlach doesn't mean non-frum Yidlach. Be the frummest person in the world. Outside Yidlach means... Do you understand what... I don't even want to give the description. Outside Yidlach means like checklist Yid. Checklist Yiddish Yidden. Did you ever notice by outside Yidlach, when you ask them how many children they have, they'll give you a number? Have you ever watched an Ehrlich Yid when they're asked how many children they have? They answer name by name. Do you know how deep that is? Because each kid is a Vayera Elav Hashem. Each kid is a whole world. Each kid, what's shining with each kid is nothing to do with the general amount of a number. This is big mussar for me. I fall in this sometimes. Just because I want to, like, whatever, it's part of the conversation, so I say. Ehrlich Yid, he's asked, how many kids do you have? It could be 1, it could be 9, it could be 3. It doesn't matter. Each one is its own name. Vayera Elav Hashem. Now listen to this Gevat Chiddush, he says here, we'll end with this. By Lot. He would rather give his daughters than his guests. You know why? Because he did learn something from Avram Avinu. He learned from Avram Avinu only about loving the world. He was a Talmud of Avram Avinu, nachon? But he only was with Avram Avinu till when? Pre-Vayera Elav Hashem. So therefore, when they come and they say, "Here, we want your guests," what does he say? My guests, my daughters. What does it matter? What does it matter? Where did he learn this Inyan? It's a weird limud zchus on Lot, right? It's like the weirdest limud zchus on Lot. He was a student of Avram Avinu, and by Avram Avinu, Avram Avinu was all about the world. Also, Avram Avinu, when he was doing all this, he wasn't a parent. He didn't have children. You could do the holiest things in the world, but before that comes into your life, the way you do the greatest things in the world is in a different lens. Lot learned how to be a Gewalt from Avram Avinu before he was a parent and before he had this revelation from Hashem. So therefore, when they come in the Parsha and they say, "Give us who you have inside," Lot says, "Listen, take my daughters." Like, what does it matter? It's just a number. It's just a number. He learned from Avram Avinu only about loving the world. You have to love a stranger. But your own children, it's not as important. They're in the same cloud. They're in the same category. If this was like the type of shiur where I would say, okay, what have we learned from this right now? What have we learned from this? Olam umlo. Olam umloi. What I shared with you was 17 minutes that took place 31 years ago in Montreal. So I'm asking everyone for a tefillah. Emet. I want you this Shabbos, specifically Motzei Shabbos, I'm being very, very stingy and personal right now. I'm asking you to daven, Be'ezer Hashem, that any gate that's still closed, that separates between this Torah reaching the world, that it could reach the world, to please have Rahmanis and that it should all open. Because I believe this is the Torah of Mashiach more than any other Torah I've ever learned in my life. And I hope and pray that part of this touches you in a certain place, and it should be for us, if it's only one thing, it should be that when I look at the gifts that Hashem gave me in my life, there should be no ilana de sfeika in any of the things that I have in my life. There should be no sfeikas about it. Not on both levels. One, whether it was the right decision or not, but Bez, especially the right decisions, I should have no suffix that what I'm engaged with is changing the whole world. It's illuminating in all worlds, and it's bringing infinite nachas ruach to the Ribbon Shleilim. Ken Yiratzon. So again, we'll see you Be'ezer Hashem this Shabbos. Everyone's invited our place, 8:30 tonight. Okay? Yeshua Koyach.